forget. Okay, morning, Ellie. Gosh, still a few people coming in. I might just give it one quick moment before we start in earnest. How's everybody doing? What's it looking like for the summer? Is it a mad dash now into
Lass das einfach
July?
sein, weil ich will da so nebenbei
I'm going to
zuhören.
mute Claudia. There we go. All busy for the summer? All waiting for a mad rush into July? Yeah,
Yeah, there's a lot going on, isn't there, this time of year?
there is.
End of term things, graduation, um, yeah,
Okay.
clients going away.
So that's 11. I'm going to make a start. So thank you all so much for joining me today. This is a slightly experimental session because the materials are brand new. I have never delivered them before. And so, as I said to a couple of people a minute ago, morning, Caroline. Morning, everybody else who's coming in. As I said to everybody a minute ago, I really value any feedback that you have on this session because there is going to be a second follow-up session, which is this is more theoretical, and the follow-up session is going to be more practical things that you can actually do in your business to try to improve your sales strategy. So we could always put some extra stuff into that if it was relevant. So as ever, I have a presentation to share with you. I would be really grateful if you're not speaking to me, then if you could put yourself on mute, because just so that there isn't any sort of background noise. And I think the presentation is going to take about half an hour, maybe 40 minutes, and then there's going to be a bit of time for Q&A at the end. I am recording, and I am going to put this linked up on YouTube later on, once it's all cooked. So excuse me, slightly froggy start. Okay, so I'm going to start sharing my presentation. Now, I've had some technical challenges this morning, which is it won't let me share the very nice clean view. So I'm sorry, are you able to see my screen? Can you see the slide that is there? Can you see that it says the art of influence? Kate Kitchen, could you give me a thumbs up if you can see? Excellent, thank you very much. Okay, so this is the first of two webinars. They are on mastering luxury sales within interior design. Our first approach is the psychology of luxury sales. And I'll talk a little bit later about what's going to be in the second webinar, but it's more practical application. So the second webinar is going to have more applicable tricks and tips that you could actually try to bring to your business. Okay, so the agenda for today, I'm just going to reduce the vision on screen. The agenda for today is brief introduction. Then I want to talk to you about our target market. Now, I'm talking specifically about high net worth and ultra high net worth individuals. So we'll be looking at the psyche of these particular clients. We're going to be looking at flipping the script because I think the biggest thing to take away from today's presentation is a change of mindset. And I really hope that that won't be obvious to everybody here at the moment, and it will feel like a bit of an insight from today's presentation. I want to talk to you about becoming a trusted advisor, and I want to talk to you about service and emotional intelligence, and then we'll have a bit of time for Q&A. Okay, so most of you know me. My background is I started my interior design career 25 years ago, working for Henrietta Spencer Churchill. And I worked for her for nearly 2 years. And I worked on projects like the one you can see in the screen, which is, and that was the whole house. And the client was a billionaire. And obviously, it was a completely different ball game to a client who is more concerned about money, for whom budget is possibly the primary driving factor of the engagement with the designer. We are talking about almost a different type of business, a different type of business model. So after I left Henrietta, I left because I wanted to run my own business. I started my own business. And in that business, for a number of years, I worked for the Qatari royal family. I worked for various ultra high net worth individuals. I worked under gosh, where you aren't allowed, where we had those gagging orders, NDAs.
NDA.
NDAs, thank you very much, Layla, where I wasn't allowed to speak about who I was working with. And so, again, it's a very different sort of way of working. And in fact, ultimately, I was actually headhunted by Odgers to be Mohammed Al Fayed's private interior designer. Now, that was a role I didn't want because there was a reputation that came with that particular position, and it wasn't for me. However, I am accustomed to working with this kind of client in this kind of situation, although until the last month or two, I haven't really thought about it in terms of the theory of sales for these particular individuals. The reason I think it's so important now is that most of you will know that I believe that AI is going to increasingly infringe on our business models, and that actually to thrive, we are going to have to drive our businesses into wealthier areas and engage more with these kinds of people. So I actually think having a sales strategy that naturally aligns you to this market is one of the things you can be doing now in order to make your business more viable in the long term. So that's me. Now, I said that I haven't taught this before. This is brand new material. And so I wanted to make sure that I was on the right track. And I have skim read a couple of books. The Trusted Advisor, I highly recommend. Luxury Selling by Francis Shrun, I think. I'm going to be referring to a couple of times through the presentation, and The Trusted Advisor. But the chap in the middle, Dr. Paul Russell of the Luxury Academy, he's got videos on YouTube. And I actually enrolled on one of his courses, and he's just fantastic. He's absolutely brilliant. So I really recommend that you look at the Luxury Academy on YouTube. He's a bit of a culture shock. He's got a very sort of particular manner. But once you settle into that, he's just so wise in terms of the advice that he gives about this particular market. So these I think are very good resources. So just to bat something out the way to begin with, is interior design a luxury? Well, it's not a necessity. We can live without it. It is something elective that we pay extra for. So it doesn't matter who you are selling your services to. Interior design is a luxury product. And I think that we need to reframe our entire approach to sales and have a holistic strategy that touches every stage of the client journey. And in the next presentation, in a couple of weeks' time, we're going to be looking at those different stages of the client journey and the things that we can be doing at each stage to try to maximize or optimize our success. So luxury sales is not about pushing a product or extracting a fee. It is about asking, what can I do for this client that exceeds even their highest expectations? So trust me, it's like if you build it, they will come. You have to be able to be prepared to step into this service role and know that the reward will come to you if you give in this way. So what can I do for this client that exceeds even their highest expectations? If you do this well, and you do it with the right people, then commercial success should be a natural consequence. That's our theory. Okay, so who are we talking about? We're talking about high net worth individuals. You will often see them abbreviated to HNW or HNWI, and they have loose change, perhaps in stocks and shares or in second properties or whatever, more than £1 million. However, the HMRC would say, in fact, that investable money that they have needs to exceed 10 million to make them high net worth. Ultra high net worth, the loose change, the investable assets are 25 million or more. So that is excluding your primary residence. That's excluding the home that you live in. Now, these people have different values and different pain points from clients at other levels of our sort of league table of wealth. And that's quite important. I'm going to come back to this, but just for now, the visible values, the things that they see about your business that is attractive to them, is scarcity. Now, that's because you are a scarce resource. There is only one of you. And if you look original and interesting and you seem to be a particularly good fit for them, you are the only one that is you. Exclusivity, you have a sort of, we'll talk about this as well, that, there are some sort of walls around your business. You're hard to get to. I'm not expressing this very well. I'm going to come back to it. Heritage, you value the past, the history, you're respectful, you create bespoke installations for your clients. So you're not just selling ready to wear, you are acting as a couture provider. And the experience of working with you is going to be unparalleled. It's going to be delightful. So these are the visible values. And these are, when we think about marketing, and we're marketing to these people, these are the kinds of things that need to be visible through the visible messages through your marketing. There are also invisible values, and these are their pain points, really. So the messaging that we're going to put out, again, is going to reassure those clients that we will help save them time. We will give them peace of mind, that they will acquire from working with us an elevated status, that we are in it for the long term, and that the work that we do with them will have a sort of endless appeal, and that they will be able to express themselves as they wish to be seen as a result of working with us. So that's who those clients are. That's what they want. And it is different from the values that might be sought from your business by clients who have less wealth. Now, in webinar 2, I'm going to talk to you about tiers of design business. And I identify 4 tiers of design business, from tier 1, which is startup, to tier 4, which is stardom. So we go from startup to stardom, and we have different levels of achievement, 2 further different levels of achievement in the middle. And the way that we sell needs to be different depending on which level you're at. So appearing to be scarce or exclusive is not optimal if you're just starting out. So we're going to talk about that in the next meeting. Now, everything I'm talking to you about today is emotional. And it's funny because paradoxically, it is so emotional. It's so about human connection. But at another level, it's actually less emotional than the relationships we might be accustomed to having with clients who have less wealth. So it's a different kind of emotional journey. I'm going to talk to you about 7 different steps, from the initial steps right up to the sort of desirable final step that we all hope to get to. So from presence to attunement, to emotional safety, to trust, to significance, to identity residence, and then finally to loyalty, when the client is so committed to you that they wouldn't think about using any other designer. So I'm going to start with presence. And presence is that first experience that the client has of encountering you. Now, it might be the first experience they have of encountering your business. it's first impressions. It, at the luxury end, is going to be all encompassing. So it's going to be about the environment. It's going to be about every part of your person. It's going to be about your manicure, your fragrance. It's going to be about I've got some notes on the slide, your ability to be with the client in a calm, composed, and attentive way. It's about attention. It is the opposite of walking into a shop and seeing that everyone who's busy in that shop working has got their head down and hasn't noticed you. It signals your composure. It comes through in your tone of voice. It comes through your eye contact. And it is also, it shows your maturity and your confidence in terms of not feeling a rush to impress that client. Now, if they are engaging with you, then presumably to some extent your reputation precedes you. And so we are having this very sort of reassuring first encounter. So from his book, Luxury Sales, Francis Runn writes, it's not your expertise that earns trust, it's your attitude. It's about how you show up. It's not about what you say. Okay, so the second step, we've met, we've got through that first meeting, the client doesn't feel threatened, it all seems to be going okay. The next step is attunement. So we're talking about the psychological steps we need to take in order to make that emotional connection with that high net worth or ultra high net worth client. Now, I think this is possibly the takeaway concept from this presentation, is that emotional intelligence is our most powerful tool. So emotional intelligence is the most powerful sales tool. Your client feeling like they are understood. So you notice what is unsaid. You listen for feelings and not just for facts. The signals are the memories that the client shares with you, the emotional cues that they share with you, and that you are matching in terms of rhythm in the way that you are engaging with the client. You feel like a match. You feel like it's a sort of mirroring. And the outcome of that is they feel like you understand them. They feel like you get them. Now, Srun says the best luxury salespeople practice empathy, active listening, and emotional reading. So we are all about listening. Our antenna, our emotional antenna is up. We are looking for cues, physical cues, verbal cues, in every respect coming to us from these clients. So I will come back to emotional intelligence, but EQ, I think when I think of people who are the best, most persuasive salespeople that I know of, they have very high EQ. Whereas when I think about people who really don't do well on that front, it's often because there is this mismatch. They're not very good at reading other people, and we can improve our EQ. Step 3 is the client now feels emotionally safe. So they've got to a place where they feel safe, respected, and important. And they're starting to feel like when they're with you, they can relax. Now, over familiarity, I think I've put it twice in this slide. There's a real dance to do here of not overstepping. So not being presumptuous in terms of what this relationship is. So we are going to make them feel safe by engaging with them, by being human with them, we're both doing a sort of production, a performance that we are peers, but we know that we're not peers. There's a power relationship at play, and we need to be respectful of the fact that the client obviously is the key person in this relationship. Ultimately, little bit by little bit, the client is going to let their guard down. And when they let their guard down, they discover that their vulnerability with us is met with discretion and with calm. Now, that can begin with tiny little details like, which side of the bed a pair of partners each sleep on. It's an intimate detail. It's not something that maybe even, friends of theirs would know. And they're trusting us with these details, and they're observing and seeing, how we respond, how we react to this kind of information. So we respect their privacy, we keep a respectful distance, and I'm going to talk about this a bit more as well. We are sellers who are not trying. We're not trying too hard. And building a bond like this really takes time. This is an organic human relationship that we're building. It can't be forced and it can't be rushed. And it's definitely in your best interest if you treat it like that, if you're not in a hurry to try to seal this particular relationship. So the signals from you are that you have a consistent tone, that there is no pressure coming from you, that you are confident, you treat the client's privacy and with confidentiality, and you have warmth and humanity. You can be cheeky or you can be a bit funny, but it's without over familiarity. And the outcome of that is the feeling that the client has that they can relax. Now, I'm aware that as I'm describing this perfect designer, who is this, picture of restraint and discretion, I'm making it sound like, this is one type of person. It isn't. Successful salespeople within luxury come in all different shapes and sizes. So there's room for every different kind of designer, but the principles of behavior, are the same in order to build these 7 stages of trust and respect. Next up is trust. Now, trust and attunement are probably 2 of the most important aspects of this presentation. So when trust comes, the client begins to rely on you. They rely on you emotionally, they rely on you logistically, and they rely on you stylistically. And they have a confidence that you will take care of the situation. It's built from, and this is a bit complicated, and this is from the book, The Trusted Advisor. It comes from credibility, your reliability, the intimacy of the relationship that you have developed, minus self-orientation. And what that means is minus your ego. So your ego has no place in this. And we will talk about that a little bit further down as well. So the characteristics of a trusted advisor include having a healthy enough ego that you can take your ego and put it into second place. So we have credibility, reliability, and intimacy, but we are sidelining our ego in this relationship. And selling luxury means that we are guiding our client. We are not pushing them. We are working together on this. I'm going to come back to that as a concept. Then we come to significance. And this is when the client feels like we remember them. We think about them when they're not shopping. We think about them when they're not present. We think about them in advance of a meeting with them. We've been thoughtful before they arrive. And because of all of this, they are truly valued by us. And this is another way that we can, another thing we really have to demonstrate in order to get all the way with our ultra high net worth client. So in his book, Francis Strun stresses the value of quiet, thoughtful follow-ups. The client should feel remembered even when they are not spending. So proactive gestures, tailored touches, subtle references to past interactions. It's not about spending a lot of money. It's not about big shows. It's about genuine demonstrations of appreciation, of value. It's the kind of thing that a little thing that you would do for a friend. It needs to be that genuine, that authentic, and it's the opposite of the CRM system that spits out a monthly something to your clients. That's like the opposite of what you want to be doing for these particular clients. And the outcome is they think of me. Okay, then we get into identity resonance. So working with you means that their reflection to the world, the way that they look in the world, to the world, is the way they aspire the world to see them. So you understand, you have a good understanding of who they are, but you also really understand the better person they want to be, or who they're trying to become. And you help them create an environment around them that reinforces that personality, that helps them become the person they want to be. And they feel like working with you reflects who they are or who they aspire to be. Now, we can signal that through having aligned values. So it feels like you and we appreciate the same things. And so you are going to be able to make a physical demonstration of my values to the world. We have aesthetic mirroring, when they look at your business or your style and they think, yes, that's a match. That's who I want to be. And in fact, we had a situation in our business, I've spoken to some of you about this before, where my business partner and I looked at a prospective client and we knew that our portfolio would not be suitable for this client because it wasn't going to be to their taste. And so my business partner went to her wardrobe and she pulled from her wardrobe an outfit. She put together an outfit, curated it, that she thought would be to the taste of the client. And she went to the job. She matched the client's home. Every room she went into, she got the job. So this is a case of aesthetic mirroring and reinforcing the self-image of that client. The outcome is this relationship reflects the best of me. It shows me as I want to be seen in the world. And then we have the final element in the psyche and the emotional journey that we take when we are engaging with and hoping to work with long-term with high net worth or ultra high net worth clients. And loyalty is a deep emotional bond. So we've got through all of the other stages. The client is comfortable, confident, relaxed. They trust us. And now they feel a real sense of loyalty to us. So it's a deep emotional bond. This is all about emotion. They return not from habit, but from preference and from attachment to us. The signals are that there is repeated custom, that we get referrals as a result of our relationship with them, and that this level of trust isn't diminished even if a period of time extends and we haven't seen each other for a while. And the outcome of this level of loyalty to our business and to ourselves is that the client feels that they wouldn't go anywhere else. Okay, so that is the emotional journey that we take to get to luxury loyalty. So we have presence, where the sale starts with our attitude. It's not with our products or services, it's with our attitude to our clients. We have attunement, where we listen for their feelings and we observe emotional cues. We have a very high level of emotional intelligence, and we strive to constantly work on that and grow it. It's a defining characteristic of our business. They feel safe with us. They believe that with our business there is emotional safety. We never rush or push. We are emotionally respectful and we stay calm. We have trust, which is built through being consistent, being subtle, and subsuming our ego because it's all about the client. Identity resonance. We help craft a story for the client to live in that resonates with them. It's how they like to see themselves. They feel like we present them as even better than, than their aspirational version of themselves. And loyalty, which is emotional, not transactional, and sustained over time through our ongoing care of our clients. Now, I wanted to come back to trust because I wrote a blog post, I'll show you in a minute, last week, which was all about becoming a trusted advisor to your client. And I suggest if you're interested in reading the benefits of trust within a relationship like this, then the blog post lists all of these and has other tips and things within it. But the salesperson, this is the mind flip that we need to do. In this case, we are a trusted advisor. So I use the word consigliere. Layla, I hope that I got that right in the presentation.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. It comes from The Godfather. So, The Godfather, this immensely powerful man, had a trusted advisor, and the trusted advisor had privileged access and enjoyed a role that was sort of a bit more safe and secure with the boss because of the level of trust that had been built up. So high net worth clients, they want to feel like they're being advised. They want to feel not like they're being coerced or pushed, but that they are working with a partner, and with that partner, they are engaged in joint decision making. And when we're talking about trust, we are talking about working with our client using language that is emotionally neutral and invitational and is not assertive or transactional. So this is my website, recipeforaroom.com, and the blog is there. There's quite a few blogs up there now, actually, which are on sort of fairly similar themes. So if you want to read more about being a trusted advisor, then that is up on the website. So I think I myself, in the past, I've been guilty of thinking of myself as being in some kind of adversarial relationship, in a battle with my clients, and there are two sides. I'm on one side and the client is on the other side. And I am there trying to get the client to, come to heel and engage with my business according to my business terms. And the client is on the other side worrying about money. And that is the way that I have sometimes thought about the way that interior design businesses operate. Actually, when we're talking about our high net worth clients, it's like we're climbing a mountain together. We are partners. We absolutely have to trust one another. We have to have each other's back. And we have this problem, which is the mountain, and we are working together to overcome the mountain. So I am helping this person up the mountain, and the transformation, I am selling them the transformation. And the transformation is that they are going to be from being here on the ground to the top of the mountain. I am going to transform their position and take them to the top of the mountain, and we are going to do it together. So next time, I'm going to talk about the kind of language that we should be using when we're speaking to these clients about service. We collaborate to acquire the bespoke design solution you desire. That is what we are doing. I will guide you with calm authority and refined judgment. So this is our partnership. It's like doubles tennis rather than singles tennis. We are both on the same side. We have this communal challenge. So the consigliere has unimpeachable loyalty. They have expert insight. They have emotional detachment, very important. They have discretion and restraint. And they have power without performance. So to some extent, this access that we have is making us powerful. And it's very important that we don't use that power, that we understand that we have it, and that part of the deal is that we are not going to exert that power on our client. So this is our trusted advisor role. Now, it completely changes the way it feels, theoretically, the way it feels to run a design project, because normally, we have these lovely periods where we're engaging with the client, we're taking the brief, we figure it all out, we know that we can do a great job for them. Then we come to the point where we present the fee proposal, our stress levels go up, we've got money issues maybe, or imposter syndrome or whatever around that particular presentation. And then once we're over that hump, it's all lovely again. And then we get into construction and things go a little bit hectic, and maybe, the unexpected happens and it all gets stressful again. And then, eventually, hopefully, we have a happy ending. Now, this is in the adversarial relationship. If instead we are partners, obviously junior and senior partner, in this endeavor, this transformation, and the transformation is our mutual enemy, our mutual challenge, then things like the fee proposal is information. Money is not emotional. Money is information. It's how much you personally will cost to help the client with their transformation. And we can change our mindset on that because we're together here and it's just not as emotional as it needs to be. Similarly, if you're in the role of trusted advisor and something goes pear-shaped in construction, and it's not your fault, it's an unforeseen something, you are partners in this project. You are as devastated as they are. You are devastated together. It's awful. You're going to do something to fix it, but you are both upset. And it takes some of the heat out of that, again, the adversarial relationship, where somehow, if things don't quite go to plan, perhaps you are slightly to blame for it. You can get into much more stressful situations. So this way of working, this way of engaging with your clients, of being on the same side as they are, can be really, really helpful in terms of smoothing out the stress that we might experience in a project. So webinar 1, the key theme, I guess, is that it is a mindset shift. We are working alongside our clients, not against them. It is a long game. So this is going to work best if you imagine, I'm going to work with this client for the rest of my life, or I want to work with this client for the rest of my life. This is a marriage. I'm not dating. We are going to be in this for the long run. And so I'm going to treat this with all of the respect that kind of relationship deserves. So we play the long game. We are authentic. This is not manipulative. We are not being strategic. We are putting ourselves out there to be absolutely authentic and to treat this person with the respect that they deserve. And we are serving them. And issues that are not emotional, we don't get emotional about. The key thing is the relationship with the client. And absolutely, it's emotional intelligence for the win, and working on our emotional intelligence. Now, there's another book here that I'm partway through. I have started reading it. I haven't finished it yet, which is Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Guidara, who is responsible for the 11 restaurants in New York and various other fabulous hospitality businesses. And he talks about exactly this kind of mindset in service, this mindset of almost creating the very best thing that you can and having no expectations, putting it out there to the best of your abilities, earnestly and with a sincere heart, and working to the best interests of your clients, and then enjoying the response that you get, which is overwhelming, theoretically. So I also wanted to mention that culturally, there are some cultures in which service is a very honorable career. It's a very honorable business. So, for example, in Japan, there is a concept of selfless hospitality. In France, in the luxury sectors, if you go into a top French restaurant, you will be served by a waiter who is so proud of his career, because it is a career. It's a highly valued, respected career to be in service at that level. In Italy, with artisanal or within the design sectors, again, service is a respected career. And the UK, we have our tradition of the upper class, or traditionally with elite private individuals. Again, there is a mutual respect between the people who serve and the people who are being served. And this, I think, is the mindset shift that we need to make so that we can present our business in the very best possible way in order to engage successfully with these people. Now, you didn't think you were going to get through this without me mentioning AI again at some point. And AI can really help you build your EQ. One of my favorite uses for AI is trying to unravel why people behave the way that they do. And the insights that you get from AI are extraordinary. So if you have a meeting with your client and you are noticing and to some extent recording their responses, their body language, the things they say, the way the emotions shift across their face, and you pick up on some cues that are surprising or unexpected, you can give that information like a diary entry to an AI, and it will give you the most insightful sort of breakdown of why your client might be behaving that way. Or if you want to coach yourself and improve yourself in developing your emotional intelligence, ask it and it will help you. So I'm obviously going to put in a pitch for AI, but in conclusion, I think this is conclusion, your ego has to be healthy enough to take a back seat. You have to watch out for overstepping and never lose sight of how privileged your position is, because we're talking about people who have a ring of people around them to protect them. And the minute that you overstep or you make yourself untrustworthy, that ring will close and you will never have access to that person again. So overstepping is something to be aware of, and just make sure that you never lose sight of your role in the service of this person. And we build our relationships by these subtle sort of micro movements. So, but like building up a muscle, really. So we're gently testing and improving the emotional connection that we have with our client, maybe pushing it a little bit, feeling for whether that was too much or whether that, you got away with that one, and just constantly monitoring exactly how that emotional connection is going. So the next webinar is on Wednesday, the 25th of June. Today is just about theory. Next time, we're going to be looking at practical applications. So we are going to be talking about language in luxury sales, how you should be talking about your role and what you do and so on. We're going to be looking at understanding your client's background. So actually knowing a little bit about the person who's coming through the door and what they do for a living. I want to talk to you about some work I've been doing on the tiers of interior design practice. So I spoke about that earlier when I was talking about 4 levels of practice, from startup to stardom. And, so just beginning and actually being known within the industry and perhaps beyond as being a standout designer. Understanding your client's motivations. We touched on that a little bit today, but we're going to come back to that next time. And just generally reviewing, the whole length of your business as a provider of a luxury service so that you can rethink some of the ways that you're presenting yourself, if it's appropriate at your current stage of business development. So I'm going to stop sharing. I think I saw something in the comments, but I don't know if that was a question. But I'm opening it up now. And does anybody have any questions that they'd like to ask at this point? Hi, Naomi. Sorry.
Hi, I'm so sorry. I was just writing you a long message to say how brilliant this is and how I've double booked and I have a Spanish rep outside. It's absolutely brilliant. I have thoroughly enjoyed it, and you made some really excellent points, Julia. I think that there are so many takeaways from that, and yeah, I really wish that I was in the UK actually, because Denmark is such a difficult environment with this whole Younger law, which is probably a one-on-one session, because you can't seem to be different here, and for the wealthy clients, I turn up in my big fancy car, and for regular clients, I turn up on my bike. And you never really know. So, that whole aesthetic mirroring is also really, really important. And I think you nailed that.
But you never know. You never know, Naomi. It all comes down to your best hunch. It really does. And sometimes you get it wrong. But hopefully, if you really think about it, more often you get it right. It's human. It's all about emotion and human connection and personalities.
Yeah. Well done.
Thank
Really
you.
good.
Any questions? Yes, Amanda.
Hi. Thank you so much for that. I also found it really, really fascinating. And I think, some of them maybe we already do intuitively just throughout life anyway, but aesthetic mirroring is something that at the time I'd not, heard about, I've not, thought about that before necessarily. Obviously, we do sometimes do mirroring, but are you, in terms of actually changing how you dress, that is something which I can imagine adapting my wardrobe. Like I might go smarter, more casual, but it's still within how I dress versus actually changing my identity. And I guess that's how far do you?
Yeah, it's actually, I don't think it's ever going to come down to that, because most of the time, the people that approach you are attracted by you. So they're attracted by you as yourself, in the way that you present yourself. And so it isn't really an issue. The example I was giving was an extreme, because
Right.
we wanted to capture a job and we knew that we weren't an aesthetic fit for that job. And so we made ourselves an aesthetic fit for that job. But that's not normal.
Okay.
So I wouldn't worry. What you need to worry about is looking on top of your game all the time, but being top-notch Amanda, not top-notch Amanda pretending to be Naomi. So
Yeah, I mean I guess that's what I was thinking more along the lines of, because also you have to sort of be confident in who you are as well and what you can bring, but obviously dialing it up and dialing it down is, I think, probably something that we all naturally do depending on where we're going and who we're seeing. And
yes,
yeah, really
and also
interesting about it.
we're going to talk about this next time, but some design practices are more formal and other design practices are less formal, and therefore you will be presenting yourself based on how formally your business is presented. So that's another consideration.
Yeah, but really interesting. I love all of this side of things. So thank you. I shall put myself back on mute now. Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Jenny, you look like you have your hand up.
Yes, because I've just found the raise hand button finally. Thank you so much for that. That was so useful in terms of those sort of the interactions that we have with a client. My question is, what are your views on how we go about meeting those clients? Because I've just started out, and I'm just wondering, do I need to be socializing in the same kinds of circles as these people? Do I need to sort of have that sort of lucky happenstance of being in the right place at the right time? Or is there is that just not really going to happen?
Well, I think so. That's quite a complex question. Next time I'm going to look at, I've mentioned the 4 tiers of interior design practice. And if you've just started, you would be tier 1. And there is a strategy for tier 1, there's a strategy for tier 2, and so on. And they are all slightly different. And tier 1 is completely different from tier 4. So tier 1, you are exploring you have a theory about a business, you test your theory in the market, you see what response you get from the market, you see who you like serving, you see who is attracted to you, and it all begins to come into focus. And depending on what your theory is of who you need to be working with, you will perhaps try networking more heavily than something else, or you'll go to LinkedIn instead of Instagram, or you'll go to Instagram, or you will create a marketing strategy that you think is going to put you in the environment alongside those clients that you most want to serve. So it's different for everybody. It's different for the stage of the business that you're currently operating at. And we are going to look at it a little bit next time when we look more about the theories. But one thing I would say is you can't do everything. So you need to, you can't try and be this and try and do that and try and do the next thing. So you have to have a working hypothesis. So, okay, my current thinking is I serve this kind of person, I do this kind of work, and you try and put yourself in that neighborhood, and you try and appeal to those people, and the outcome is the results of that experiment. And that really is all that you can be doing. But you just keep trying. You just keep trying.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? No? Okay. Okay. Well, in that case, I have recorded this and I'm going to put it up. I'm going to put a link to it in Hothouse. I'm going to share it with my boot campers. So I'll put the link into our WhatsApp groups. And I am going to be obviously running the second webinar on the 25th, Wednesday, the 25th at 1 p.m. And it is going to go more into the practical side of things. So actually how to position your business to put out these strategies of selling. I would love your feedback. So if you want to tell me anything now or behind the scenes in any any way that you can get at me, please do. And if you've got any guidance for things you might like to hear next time, or if you think that I should have thought about something else, please tell me, because I want to refine this material and develop it a bit more, because I do think that this is part of what I've been talking about previously, which is becoming a Veblen service, a service that is priced to the extent that the price doesn't matter, and that we are all pushing towards that, so that if AI starts operating at the lower levels of the market autonomously, our businesses are that little bit more exclusive, that little bit more established, that little bit more original, that we still have a good chunk of market to operate in. So that's what I'm aiming for with the materials that I'm sharing with my lovely gang of interior designers. So thank you all. Thank you all for sticking around to the end. And I'll see you in a couple of weeks' time.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
And we're
you,
looking forward to the
Julia.
next session. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.